The Rise and Fall of the League of Nations by World War II.
World War I was devastating, so the League of Nations was created. It could never be strong enough. It failed. Countries left and started invading each other. World War II had begun. World War I broke out due to an Austro-Hungarian leader being assassinated. 8.5 million people died in World War I. World War I created a lot of destruction to cities, buildings, and people's lives. Germany had started the war, so they had to suffer the consequences. Those consequences were listed in the Treaty of Versailles. Countries had different reactions to the treaty. The main opinion in Britain was that the punishments were fair. France had mixed reactions. They thought the terms were fair, but they thought Germany was still a threat. America felt as though the terms were unfair. German reactions were very negative. They had lost 10% of its land, 12.5% of its population, 16% of its coal industry, and 48% of its iron industry. Germans started rioting and supporting dangerous political radicalism. All of them wanted what had belonged to them back.
Woodrow Wilson was America's president during World War I and the starter of the idea of the League of Nations. He first wrote a document called 14 Points. It was the outline for future peace negotiations. The last point was about having a League of Nations and how it would work. He made a speech about his 14 points, and sure enough, the idea of the League of Nations was publicized. The League of Nations was starting to be created, and every country had to decide whether or not to be in it. The U.S. Senate would not allow America to join because it had just been in World War I, and they did not want to be fighting wars for other countries. Woodrow Wilson had just suffered a severe stroke, so he could not protest. The main countries in the League of Nations were Britain, Italy, Japan, and France.
Every member of the League of Nations had to sign the Covenant of the League of Nations. Those terms included to end conflicts without violence and have good relationships with other countries. The first meeting was on November 15, 1920, in Geneva. Germany had not joined in time to be at the first meeting, but they later joined by Gustav Stresemann, persuading the world that they have changed and should be allowed to join the League of Nations.
The League settled many debates about unbordered land, unknown territory, and countries wanting to invade each other. If these disputes weren't settled, there could have been war. Japan was accused of using aggression on a Chinese city, so they had to leave the League of Nations. Germany wanted to gain back everything that had been taken from them by the Treaty of Versailles, and Hitler was already secretly planning how to gain power. Italy also left, and they did so for territorial expansion. Other countries started leaving the League of Nations because they knew the League of Nations could not hold up for much longer. Hirohito was the Emperor of Japan during World War II. He wanted Japan to be bigger, so he bombed China. Mussolini wanted domination over land near the Mediterranean Sea, such as Ethiopia. Hitler wanted power over most of Europe. They all understood where they wanted territorial expansion, so they became the main alliance within the Axis powers. As World War II was approaching, Hitler started gaining power. After World War I, Hitler joined a small political party of demobilized soldiers called the German Workers' Party, which later became known as the Nazi Party. He quickly became their leader with his speeches about racially puring Germany. In 1924, Hitler went to prison. In 1925, while he was still in prison, he wrote a book. In English, it is called My Struggle. It talks about his ideas that Jews should be blamed for all of Germany's problems. He got many supporters from this. The people who supported his ideas joined the Nazi Party. He used a lot of propaganda in posters and speeches. He also started the Hitler Youth Movement, which trained boys as soldiers and girls for motherhood. Finally, Hitler had gained so many supporters that he became the president of Germany. In the Allies, England and America had the best navy. In the Axis powers, Japan had the best submarines, but overall, Germany had the best navy, and Germany also won over the French Navy.
Germany had the best air force, but Britain started bombing factories that produced airplane parts. Once America joined, the Allies then had the best airplane. Germany started the war with the best army, but then they invaded Russia. They were not prepared for a Russian winter. They lost many soldiers.
September 1st, 1939 marks the start of the war. Germany invades Poland. September 3rd, 1939, Britain and France declare war on Germany. April 1st, 1940, Hitler seizes Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Holland, and Luxembourg. In April 1940, Hitler defeats northern France. On June 10th, 1940, Benito Mussolini's Italian forces attack France from the south. On June 22nd, 1940, France surrenders. On March 30th, 1941, U.S. seizes Axis ships. On May 15th, 1941, Robin Moore is attacked by a German torpedo. On June 22nd, 1941, Germany invades the Soviet Union. On September 4th, 1941, a German submarine attacks rear a U.S. ship. On October 17th, 1941, the USS Kearney is damaged by a submarine. On December 7th, 1941, Japan bombs Pearl Harbor. On December 11th, 1941, U.S. declares war on Germany, Italy, and Japan. On October 23rd, 1942, British and American armies attack Africa. On January 31st, 1943, Russians trap Germans who invaded the Soviet Union. On September 8th, 1943, Italy surrenders. On June 4th, 1944, Rome falls. On June 6th, 1944 is D-Day. The first of nearly 3 million Allied soldiers arrive in Normandy. August 25th, 1944, Paris is liberated. On May 1st, 1945, Hitler commits suicide. On May 2nd, 1945, Germany surrenders. On July 16th, the first atomic bomb is tested in the New Mexico desert. On August 6, 1945, the first atomic bomb is dropped on Hiroshima. On August 8, 1945, the Soviet Union invades Manchuria. On August 9, 1945, a second atomic bomb is dropped in Nagasaki. On September 2, 1945, Japan surrenders. World War II has ended. In conclusion, the League of Nations was created to stop wars after World War I because they had seen how bad the war was. The League failed. Maybe if every nation worked together, they could have possibly succeeded. Hitler rose to power with lies. The Axis powers started off as the strongest. The bombing of Pearl Harbor was a turning point in the war because that is what made America join. America taught the Allies to use radar, gave the Allies an additional ally, and created the atomic bomb. All of these helped the Allies win. World War II was a very devastating war. Mussolini, Hitler, and Hirohito were very bad people. The League of Nations was the foundation of the United Nations, which still stands today, and they can learn from the League of Nations' mistakes. Wars like World War II should be prevented. In this scenario, with World War II and the League of Nations, the compromise, the League of Nations, came before the conflict, World War II, which makes this very important in history.